Take your seats.
Reverend Fathers, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Alumnorum Societies, it is my proud privilege to welcome Lord Archer to St. Xavier's today. Lord Geoffrey Archer needs no introduction. Born in London and brought up in Somerset, he was educated at Wellington School and then at Oxford. After leaving Oxford, he was elected to the Greater London Council, and 3 years later, at the young age of 29, he became a Member of Parliament. Aged 34, he sat down to write his first novel, Not a Penny More, Not a Penny Less. The book was sold in 17 countries within a year, and Lord Archer's journey as a world-renowned author began. What followed were international bestsellers such as Cain and Abel, my personal favorite, Sons of Fortune, False Impression, A Prisoner of Birth, Paths of Glory, and many others. Lord Archer was the Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party. He was made a life peer in the Queen's Birthday Honours list in 1992. And he currently does about 30 charitable auctions every year. Lord Archer is extremely committed to his writing. He takes about 2,000 hours over a period of almost 2 years to write a book. He does it in 17 drafts, and each one is handwritten. Published in over 97 countries, in more than 37 languages, Lord Archer is firmly established with international sales passing 250 million copies. He is the only author who has ever been the #1 bestseller in fiction 15 times, short stories 4 times, and non-fiction as well. Ladies and gentlemen, few are more famous than Lord Archer. He can only be described as the genius. It is my pleasure to present Lord Archer to all of you today. May we greet him with acclamation.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this great school, which has an international reputation, to address you on such an important occasion as the festival you're celebrating. I just want to say what a privilege it is to be in India while the English cricket team is smashing you to pieces, and how much I am looking forward to traveling home having won the series for the first time in I don't know how many years. Can I leave now? It's lovely to be here. It's lovely to be here because nowhere in the world does a nation treat writing the way the Indians do. The Indians have a genuine love of literature and a genuine love, much more important in my case, of storytellers. Because I am not a writer, I'm a storyteller. I came to writing by mistake. I wanted to be a politician, and at the age of 34, when I was facing bankruptcy, thank heavens I never went bankrupt, I wrote my first book, Not a Penny More, Not a Penny Less. Now, 1 or 2 of you may have read that it was an instant success. This is not true. The first book, Not a Penny More, Not a Penny Less, sold 3,000 copies, and only 112 in India. So the first one was not a success. It was not until Cain and Abel that people started buying Not a Penny More, Not a Penny Less in this country. May I say, Father, which one of you is the senior one? You. Which one's the senior one? This is a typical Indian audience, all strolling in late, all taking their places late, typical Indian audience. God, come on, gather in, sit down. So I wrote Cain and Abel was the third book, and that was the big breakthrough. But I had a problem because the Americans decided, my American agent decided they wouldn't sell the book to a publisher, they would auction it. And let me tell you how that works. You give the book to all the great publishers of America, and there are 14 of them, and you let them read it for a week, and then when they've read it for a week, they bid like an auction. And it's sold for millions of dollars. And when it was sold, it had changed my whole life overnight. When it was sold, they began to panic because they'd paid so much money for it that they said, we've got to get you on television, Jeffrey. Because otherwise no one will buy this book. Now listen carefully, because this is the bit that needs some concentration. In the United States of America, there's a top 15 in the New York Times. And if you don't get into that top 15 in 3 weeks, if you don't make it in 3 weeks, you die a death. And you are sent back, literally, your books are sent back to the publisher. Now, why is it important to get into the top 15? Because they half the price if you get into the top 15. So obviously you sell lots more copies if you get into the top 15. So they said, Jeffrey, we've got to get you on television because that will give it a chance. The problem is they don't like novelists on the morning programs. We've got to get you on one of the big morning programs. Good Morning America or CBS or ABC. We've got to get you on there. But they told me they like non-fiction. If I'd written a book on how to cure cancer, you're straight on. If I'd written a book on how to lose 12 pounds in 12 days, you're on immediately. So they're desperately looking. But they rang up and said, look, we've made it. You're on Good Morning America, and you'll be on for 6 minutes between 7:24 and 7:30. But you are sharing the spot with 2 other people. So you only get 2 minutes. And you must mention the name Cain and Abel as often as you can in the 2 minutes. Now, the first person on will be Billy Carter, the brother of the President of the United States. And he is promoting Billy's beer. You are allowed to laugh and you are allowed to applaud. Don't be frightened of that lot back there. The other person who's on, second on, is Mickey Mouse. And Mickey Mouse is celebrating 50 years of Walt Disney. Then you're on for 2 minutes, and you must mention Cain and Abel as often as you can. So they said, I'll tell you what we're doing, Jeffrey. We're going to bring you over on that new aeroplane called Concorde, which had only just been built and was only just flying. And they said, if we bring you over on Concorde, everybody will realize how important you are. And then we'll have a stretch limousine to meet you, and then we'll take you to the presidential suite at the Plaza Hotel, and everyone will realize. And then on the morning, you will be on for 2 minutes. And they did. They did send me over in Concorde. They had a stretch limousine to meet me. They took me to the presidential suite at the Plaza. and I didn't sleep because I was so nervous. I shaved early, I put on my best suit, my wife chose my tie, and off I went to the green room at the studio. And in the studio was Billy Carter and Mickey Mouse. When the program started, Billy Carter was on first, and he was very good. He was promoting Billy's beer, and he did it very well. The trouble was, he took 2 minutes and 14 seconds. So he took 14 seconds of my time. Next up was Mickey Mouse. And Mickey was very professional. And he taught me something about television that I didn't realize until then, and I have taken advantage of the rest of my life. If you know it's the last question, you go on talking. And Mickey went on talking for 43 seconds. So I had lost 43 seconds of my 2 minutes. I'm now very, very nervous. I climb the steps. I sit in front of the interviewer, Dave Hartman, and he's sitting in front of me, David Hartman, and he says, the red light goes on, and he says, "Hello, Jeff." Not a good start. But it's clear to me because the book, Cain and Abel, is in front of him, and it hasn't, not one page has been turned. He hasn't read it. And he's got the notes about me in front of him. He looks at me, the red light goes on, and he says, "Jeff, I see you came over on the Concorde." And I said, "Yes, this is a remarkable plane. This plane takes off in London, and it goes twice the height of any plane in the history of man. It goes twice the speed of any plane in the history of man, and it lands in New York. You can have breakfast in London, and you can have breakfast in New York. This is an achievement of engineering that any nation on earth would be proud of." To which Mr. Hartman said, "Thank you for coming on the show." So, my publishers were not pleased. I hadn't mentioned Cain and Abel once. And the book came into the bestsellers list at number 32, a long way from number 15. They said, "You've got one more big chance. We're sending you down to Chicago. You're going to be interviewed on the Milt Schulman radio program. Milt Schulman goes out to 12 million people, so don't make the same mistake twice." What I didn't realize in my youth and in my innocence is that Mr. Schulman doesn't like to meet the people he's interviewing before you come on the show. He thinks the spontaneity is better if he's never met the person. So I went on the show, I sat in front of the great Nobel Prize winner, the great professor, ready to do my piece. I was ready. And he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have in the studio with me this evening a legend. I have with me a man I have wanted to meet all my life. Will you welcome to the studio the conqueror of Everest, Sir Edmund Hillary." And then he said,